Welcome or welcome back to day 57 of our chess journey to 1500 ELO on chess.com. Now let's just jump on ahead into our game and find an opponent again. We get Anime Sarkar from India with the exact same rating as us, namely 1400. Now this is something I'm not quite familiar with, but this should not pose a threat by itself, to be honest. This should be an inaccuracy. I think we might just play a solid move like this. This doesn't quite work because this seems awkward, so I would like to start with knight to c6, controlling this square. Now what happens if we get this move? This is some interesting stuff. Do we not just have this? We even have this move, which could grab the bishop here in quite the unorthodox in an orthodox manner, to be honest. Well, on the one side we could play this move, but why would we do so? It grabs the bishop here, I guess. But at the end of the line here, our pawn is hanging and we have to defend it, and we don't have very fun ways of defending it. I would advocate for this move instead. Knight to f6, developing. We still have this idea. This is quite something. It's honestly a curious opening. Our opponent is trying to scholars mate us at 1400 rapid ELO. Is this some juiced up Alpin gameplay? I'm honestly not quite sure here. What happens if we get this? This is first. We could still go for this idea here though. I'm just dumbfounded by this opening, to be honest. This is quite something. Honestly, I would just like to cash in on the bishop pair here and play d6, I guess, to defend our pawn. I'm not quite expecting this to be the best approach though. But do we have to take the bishop yet? I guess we'll just do it. Why not? And then go d6. It makes sense. To me at least. We don't have a better way, I think, of defending this. Although this might be an okay move, but considering our opponent is likely to push d4, I think we might as well play d6 ourselves. And I'm noticing here, if this is played and we get this, I was looking at this in between move here perhaps. This does seem to win a pawn, because if they take, we take with the knight. This check is interesting. I think we would just block with a queen. This doesn't quite favor us, as it loses a pawn. It might give us some development, I guess. We could argue we could hit our opponent in response, but I'm not seeing a convincing follow-up. Now this is an idea I didn't quite consider. If we take, we lose this pawn. This is a really unorthodox way of playing. An unorthodox way indeed. But now let's have a quick look here. Can we not hit our opponent's queen with tempo? Then we dislodge it from its attack on this pawn. But they will go for a check on our king. And this loses a piece. Oh no, it does not actually. We drop back in that position. For some reason I don't quite like this, so I honestly think I prefer this. It's definitely an interesting position. I'm sure I've never seen this before. This should be first, so we don't lose our pawn. And now this, and I'm expecting they will probably take this pawn now. We recapture, and I'm not quite sure as to what to make of this following position. Honestly, I would have liked to convert this in a better way. One thing I'm realizing though is we might not play the quickest developing move here. The thing I'm noticing here is the king wants to castle. I want to play here. I would like to get the bishop on here. This knight is 4 moves away from hitting this. The bishop can't hit the square. And this knight would have to move to either of those squares. If they go here, they can't castle. If they go here, we take the knight. So this might be a good move as an in-between move here to deny their castling rights, at least for the time being. I just want to make sure they don't have a follow-up here. But I'm not seeing a threat. This threatens a fork that we could take. So let's come in here and pose some problems for our opponent. They could push, but then we take the pawn for free, I guess. And this seems pretty decent. I honestly did not consider they could play this move. Takes. But then we do force an isolated pawn for them, but we will have an isolated pawn as well. But still, I guess we can play this, they will play this, and they still can't castle. So I think this works out pretty well. I think we have to take though. I'm not seeing a good alternative. I'm looking at this way of developing because I would like to use this open file here. If they come in here to hit us, we just come in here and then they can't target our bishop. This, what happens if they hit our pawn? Well, that's honestly somewhat annoying, but we could probably move our pawn up, but then if we go here, they could do the same thing to us that we are doing to them. So we might go here instead with our bishop. Just want to make sure we don't have ideas of queenside castling, but I'm not quite convinced by this. So let's come up here instead. And then prepare kingside castling. Now I'm pretty sure this should be the best move. Although I'm not 100% sure. This does seem interesting. We could get targeted in a couple of moves here after this bishop moves out, and the rook might come to hit us. But then we could just drop back along this diagonal here, I think, and keep on preventing their easy castling opportunities. The reason I'm looking at knight or rook rather to c8 now is because I'm looking at this line and this. For some reason I thought, oh, then our opponent can finally castle queenside then, but that's not a move because they moved the rook. So I think we'll just castle here and be quite happy. If this is played, as I mentioned, we just drop back. And this looks quite good. Just want to make sure we have no good alternatives. None of those squares here work. This, I mean, we are kind of threatening this, which is less than ideal for our opponent, but I think I think I'd like to drop back here instead. They want to play this to cut off our connection here and our threat, which is a good move. But now I think we can play up here, and if they push, we have ideas of our own. Is that a good move though? Let's say we go like this, then the bishop is trapped. I'm honestly not convinced by this line. This is not looking as nice as I would have liked it to. But I'm not seeing good alternatives here. I would like to get the rooks into the game, but they are threatening an immediate trap here. And in this position, this loses. So if we go here, this is a forcing line here where we have to take. Then our opponent will take. And I guess we will end up a pawn here, up a pawn on the A file. But is that really a good pawn? I'm not quite convinced. So we might go for this position. If they castle, they can still have their pawn structure decimated. And this will keep our B file protected against our opponent's rooks. I'm honestly a bit hesitant when it comes to giving up the bishop pair here, but I think this should make for good targets. Sorry, I got something in my throat there. Oof. Let's have a look here. How would we go about improving our pieces? Well, the obvious move here is probably just grabbing the C file. Doing so with the A rook seems the best, because there might be ideas of coming onto those other files. I would like to improve our knight though. It's currently horrible. This might be an idea, but it's a bit slow. I don't want to give our opponent the C file. this, I think, is the only maneuver with the knight that makes sense. Now, is this a mistake or not by our opponent? This forces the knight back, and it's got one square, namely here. And from this square, I'm not seeing a whole lot they could do. This opens up our bishop a bit. It takes away this square from our knight though. But if we play here, they go here, then suddenly we are on the offensive here, hitting their pawn. And this does look quite comfortable, to be honest. It also locks this pawn from advancing, which that might not be that important. I think I like this idea. There might be an argument for moving the knight here, and I'm not seeing a better square along this. We might have this actually. But then they go back and we get hit with tempo. So I'd advocate for d5 first. We might even have ideas here of coming here to hit all of their pawns. And then the other rook comes in, and I think we are in a decent spot. They go back. Is there an argument against this move? Well, honestly, what I'm noticing here is our opponent could probably force off both the pairs of rooks, but then I think we should be in a decent position afterwards, considering our opponent's numerous weaknesses. I think any endgame here should be favorable for us at least. If we get this, we might even have this move. But then we give our opponent this. This move though, I think I'd like to play here now. Pretty sure this was a better move for our opponent, because now if they want to trade, we get in like this. I guess it kind of transposes, so it might not do all that much. Either way, I think we'll go up here. I'm expecting this move. But if we get this, I guess we might just be forced to trade off the rooks. No, we get this instead. But now we can improve our knight, I think. This is an idea. I would have liked to have this square to cut off their rook from trying to trade. The problem is if we go pawn hunting, they will have this and they will have threats against our position, which will be difficult to defend, I think. So instead of moving our rook here, I think I would just like to prepare, or probably just I'd like to say expect the rook trade. This is honestly unexpected to me. But where am I thinking of going with our knight? This has quite the simple idea. I think our opponent wants to play here. Honestly, I'd like to dislodge their bishop, is what I'm noticing. But h6 makes a lot of sense here, at least, to me. It gives us lift for our king. It takes away this bishop. This loses a pawn. Oof. I'm noticing here I'm quite tired to that. It's currently past midnight now, and I'm recording this video now in advance because tomorrow is going to be a busy day for me. I'd like to come in with the bishop here. Now the knight is paralyzed. This seems like a better position than what we had, and this isn't actually a threat. I'm not seeing the follow-up. But as long as this bishop is here, I'm not seeing a good maneuver for our knight. How do we get in? Nothing seems to work because we get intercepted by the bishop wherever we go. This is a nice square, but we would have to come in like this. This trade is forced. If we move, we get back rank mated, or pinned at least. And that's quite passive. Let's go for this. Well, this knight is still somewhat dominated. I would like to get our king into the game. But what is the best idea here? It's incredibly difficult trying to move this knight, I'm realizing here. So instead, I'd like to bring our king first. I genuinely can't seem to find a good maneuver for the knight. It seems our opponent here is trying to trade off like this. Is this favorable to us or not? Well, I guess on paper it should make sense for us to trade like this because of our opponent's numerous weaknesses. They can't move up. I would like to move our king here, probably. Can't quite come in though. I'd like to move the king still. Now this does give us a target though. That's a welcome sight. I think we can go king to e6 here. And now we could hit the pawn like this, and I don't think our opponent can defend it in time. This and this should win a pawn. And then once we get active here with our knight, we can actually have maneuvering options. This knight still can't come forwards thanks to our pawn here. And I'm looking at this maneuver coming in here and hitting their pawn. I'm expecting this though. I guess we might drop back there to defend our pawn. And now we should probably be able to pick up this pawn. Honestly, I'm not convinced by this. We take. We could even go here instead of taking, like this. This should be a pawn for us. And now I think we can go here and come up here perhaps and pick up the pawn. Alternatively, this, and we get the pawn here. I think I'd like this because it centralizes our king more. No, it's defended. Never mind. Let's go here. Now I think I'd like to get our knight in here. But I think this pawn is won already. So f6 seems interesting to me though. To lock this pawn down, but is it really a threat? I don't think so. I would like to go for a queen as quickly as possible. Now I think we can play this move. We go here and they don't have any forwards mobility with the knight. They can't go here. The squares don't quite work out for them. If they push again, I think we can go like this. We are already threatening another pawn. And also, of course, this push. This is quite nice because our opponent's knight can't hit ours. They can't hit our pawn because of those pawns here. a5. This looks promising. Now the knight might be tied down to the defense of this pawn. Let's have a look here. This might actually be trickier than I thought because we can't push any pawns easily on this side. I would like to argue for coming up here and threatening stuff like this to force our opponent away from our pawns on the queen side. If they go for our pawns here, I guess we win the game through this. I like this move now, so their knight can't come in. And we defend our pawn, and we might even threaten this pawn push. I'm realizing this is a move because of this, but then we just push pawns. And that should be winning, I'm pretty sure. So what we are currently doing here is we are just trying to kill off our opponent's counterplay as much as possible. Do we have this move? I think we do. This still doesn't work, I think. We take, and now we can even take with this pawn. I think our opponent has to react to those pawns here, pushing up the board. I'd like to argue for this move first. And then we push the b pawn to prepare playing this. I don't quite see how our opponent defends this position. Well, if we get this, what is their king doing? They can't come in here. Our pieces have got this covered. Now, I just want to calculate this. No, this doesn't work, but this should work. They check us, and then they grab a pawn, and then we just queen, pretty much. If they take our knight, we win. But do we need to complicate this? I think I might prefer knight here first. Oh. Well, you know how it is. You blunder some, and you blunder some more. Well, this is still decisively winning. Let's push our pawn. We come up here, threaten this. Worst case, our opponent has to trade off their knight for our pawn. I'm honestly annoyed I missed. Well, we have this, and this should be okay, I think. Now we can push and get this. Our king can't get checked because their king is here now, and this loses the knight. It's a pity I managed to blunder the b-pawn. This was even more winning. I just missed it. I'm honestly, as I mentioned, a bit tired now. I'm going to bed after this game. Now what could our opponent play? This doesn't seem to work, I think. Once again, worst case. If they go here, we just take the pawn immediately. Now I think we push. What's stopping us from doing so? This, and we push again. I'm not seeing the idea of this move. What is their intended response to the pawn push? I'm not seeing how the knight does anything in response. There is no fork, no nothing. We come in here. And then we queen. Now this should be an easy conversion. We'll just make sure we don't blunder. This pawn is going to fall, and so should their king. Now do we have a... Yeah, this wins. No, this is defended. It still wins though. But I don't want to give the queen away. I'm expecting this, this, and this perhaps. No, this. I'm missing a lot today. Now this wins. This forks the knight and the king. There we go. Now it's game over. Now we just don't have to blunder a stalemate. Let's check them and force them back. this forces their king back even further, and now we should have an imminent checkmate. We'll move our king up and just walk them to the corner. Or, no, this is mate. So this works. Perfect. This brings us up to 1408 after quite the hilarious game. I have to say, this endgame was quite messy. That's all I'm going to say. Thanks a lot for the game, Anime Shaka. I'm not quite sure. It's Indian and I'm not quite familiar with Hindi. Anyways, let's jump on ahead into the game review. They send a friend request. I'll go on ahead and accept. So we played with an accuracy of 80.2 today, and our opponent played with an accuracy of 75.1. Let's have a look at the moves here. I see we had quite a plethora of mistakes and inaccuracies, so this is going to be fun. We had a Sicilian here. Now let's see if I'm able to bring the evaluation bar up here. I'm not quite familiar with this new setup here with the game review. This seems to be it. This was quite good for us. This was the best move, and this was good as well. I would have never thought of this move, to be honest. Does this not just trade equal material? No, it does not. We can take here even. But this is not the best move. The computer prefers this capture. I guess it kind of hinders our opponent's development or something. I don't quite see the full extent of this move. I guess it might be because we get this clamp on our opponent's position that we almost did later on. I'm not quite sure. Well, we went here, we pushed. What was their move here? Queen to e2, just going back, okay. They went here, and our best move was to capture. If they take, what did I miss here? Pushing the pawn up to e4 apparently. Or even queen to d5. I guess the computer just hates our opponent's position. It wants a queen trade and it says we are better. Well, we played here, got to this position, which was still quite good. It's evaluated quite similarly, but not going for this capture is bizarre to me. Let's see, knight to e5. Oh, yeah, once again, this is an idea here, preventing castling, and the computer welcomes this sack. Now this is even good at this point, apparently. What happens if they come up? Well, then this is a check. So their king would be forced to a horrible position, and then we could take. Even king takes works. I did not see this. We went for this. Well, this is still quite decent. It's not the best. I thought we had this clamp on our opponent's position, but I missed this d4 move. We took. We came in like this. Castling was not the best move, but how big of a difference was... Well, honestly, most moves here seem to be quite similar. Knight to f6 was apparently best, but this was pretty similar. This was okay as well. The best move was d5, which we did play later on. But, honestly, I would like to have a look at this, because we looked at this move. What happens if b5 is played? I thought this was a bit messy. But apparently this pawn up position is quite okay. This capture was not quite blessed. Our best move here was a6. Hitting this. If they take... Let's just see what is recommended here. The best move is apparently taking. But well, we do actually have this move even. And then we x-ray the pieces. The knight has to be defended because the pawn is hanging as well. Well, we took, destroyed their structure, pushed the pawn here. What was our move in this position? We should have went back. And if they try to no, they can't actually try for another rook trade. That's quite interesting. If they went back here, I didn't quite see that our opponent had very slow ideas here. If we went back, they can't force another rook trade, and we could even double for free. Well, we went here, we traded, they pushed. In this position, going back was quite blessed as well by the engine, because whenever they take, we get a passed pawn, which we could try to protect. We went up with the king here, and this is a winning endgame. The quickest way here of winning was just coming in here, not allowing their king to come up to the pawn. This makes a lot of sense, and we should have probably went for it. I thought, okay, if they come up with the queen, with the king... Oh, wait a second. Wait a second. e4 check. This is forced. This is apparently already lost. Why? Oh, they are locked out. They can't do anything. So when we take, we just escort the pawn. Well, I should have seen this. As I mentioned, I'm quite tired today. We did still get a decent position. Grabbed some pawns. Played some inaccuracies. Grabbed some more pawns. Pushed pawns, moved pieces. This was good. Now we had such a decisive position. This was apparently a good move. Giving up the pawn with check. I don't quite see why this is an inaccuracy when we go from mate in 8 to mate in 7. Well, either way, they went here, and this... Oh, we had a mate in 1. Not here. That's not the move. This was it. Which I guess some of you probably saw, to be honest. Either way, this did guarantee the win as well. With less brain power going for an easy mate, we all learned at like 500 ELO. Well, anyways, guys, this is our game for today. This brings us to a 5-game winning streak. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you all tomorrow. Bye bye.